doing it again. He went through the Make-A-Wish Foundation and went visit a young man in the hospital. I'm just trying to tell y'all, all of those reports that came out during that draft, that Shedeur Sanders is entitlement and he's all by himself. He don't care about his teammates. He don't care about nobody else but him. Listen, there's not too many people who will stop whatever they doing to go see a sick person. That's in real life. You ain't got to be no football player, nor in the NFL. That's real life, and that's real talk. So,
Shedeur Sanders talking yesterday about his playing status, of basically meaning he hasn't played at all. Third-string quarterback in Cleveland this year. Listen to what he said.
If things happen, things turn out where I play, then I'll be out there and I'll be ready to play. So I'm ready to play right now.
Don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like. Subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin. You ever notice how fast the NFL world moves? One tweet, one headline, one viral clip, and suddenly a young man's name is dragged through every show, every debate, every scroll on your feed. That's what happened to Shedeur Sanders. Before he even got a chance to take a snap in the league, people already decided who he was. Selfish. Entitled, all talk. They painted the picture before the story even began. And let's be honest, most of us believed it, because that's what happens when the loudest voices get the last word. But then, out of nowhere, comes a moment that stops everything. A quiet hospital room, no ESPN cameras, no PR team, no press release, just Shedeur sitting with a young fan, smiling, talking, showing the kind of heart you can't fake. And that right there, that was the reset button. That was the truth breaking through the noise. See, we've been conditioned to think every athlete moment is staged. That if a camera's not rolling, it didn't happen. But this wasn't for clicks. It wasn't for headlines. It was for humanity. And that's what makes it so powerful. Because when you strip away the filters, the social media takes, the analyst noise, what's left is character, real character. The kind that doesn't need a mic to speak. And you know what? This should make every one of us stop and think. Because we, the fans, we've been fed a diet of drama. We've been told who to root for, who to doubt, who to label as trouble. It's a machine, and Shedeur got caught in it. Not because of what he did, but because of who he is. Confident, outspoken, the son of Coach Prime. In the NFL world, that alone is enough to paint a target on your back. We've seen this story before. A young player with swagger gets called arrogant. A vocal leader gets called a distraction. It's a pattern, one built on comfort zones. The league loves humble when it's quiet. But when humble starts talking back, suddenly it's a problem. And that's where Shedeur's story hits different. Because he didn't clap back. He didn't rant on social media. He didn't chase headlines or chase validation. He answered with compassion. Think about that. In a league that glorifies bravado, he chose kindness. In a system that values image, he showed heart. That's not weakness. That's power. That's maturity most veterans still struggle to find. And now people are starting to wake up. Fans who wrote him off are watching that hospital video and realizing, maybe we got played. Maybe the entitled kid was never the problem. Maybe the problem was the narrative built around him. A narrative that couldn't handle a young man writing his own story. This moment isn't just about Shedeur Sanders. It's about every athlete who's ever been misjudged before they were given a fair shot. It's about every fan who's ever realized too late that they were cheering for the headline, not the truth. And make no mistake, this one moment didn't just silence his critics. It exposed how easily we fall for them. Because when the lights fade and the microphones cut off, all that's left is who you really are. And now we're finally seeing who Shedeur is. Not the character they wrote for him, but the man he's becoming. And that right there is where the real story starts. Pause beat, subtle shift to anticipation. Because if one small act of kindness can change how millions see him, imagine what happens when he finally gets the chance to show it on the field. You ever sit there on draft night, watching pick after pick, and just shake your head thinking, what are these teams even looking at? That was me. That was every fan who's been paying attention to Shedeur Sanders since Colorado. We watched the tape. We saw the poise, the leadership, the accuracy under pressure, and somehow the same analysts who praised that all year suddenly acted like he wasn't ready for the league. And I gotta be honest, that wasn't just confusing. It was insulting. Because let's call it what it is. This wasn't about football. This was about perception, about comfort zones, about a young quarterback who didn't fit the mold some front offices were comfortable with. And the craziest part? Every credible analyst, every scouting outlet that broke down film had Shedeur ranked ahead of guys like Dylan Gabriel. Every single one. But come draft day, all that film, all that data, all that tape, gone, replaced by whispers. Entitlement. Coach Prime's shadow. Character questions. Man, miss me with that. We've seen this before. Teams talk about wanting leaders, but when they see one who doesn't flinch, who doesn't bend, who walks in with his own energy, suddenly that's ego. They say they want confidence, but when that confidence comes from a player who grew up under the spotlight, who's unafraid of it, they call it arrogance. It's like they want quarterbacks who act like leaders, but never make them uncomfortable. And here's where it gets wild. The same front offices that questioned Shedeur's leadership were hyping up other prospects for being commanding in interviews or mature beyond their years. You mean to tell me a guy who literally ran an offense under national pressure, who carried his team through chaos, somehow failed the leadership test? Come on, watch the Colorado games. You saw the body language. You saw teammates rally around him. You saw him take hit after hit behind that O-line and still keep his composure. That's toughness. That's maturity. So what happened? Somewhere along the line, someone decided the story mattered more than the stats, that the name Sanders carried too much spotlight, too much expectation, too much prime. And that's where the league exposed itself, because this wasn't a talent evaluation. This was a control test. Was Shedeur going to fit neatly into their system, smile, say yes, sir, and wait his turn? Or was he going to come in believing he could start day one? You and I both know how this league works. If you fit their script, they'll build you up. If you don't, they'll tear you down. And Shedeur? He didn't fit. He had his own brand, his own voice, his own standard. And the NFL didn't know how to handle that. So instead of focusing on his reads, his accuracy, his mechanics, they turned the conversation into everything else. Suddenly, it wasn't about his game. It was about his last name. And that's where they messed up. Because when you look back years from now, when Shedeur is carving up defenses, we're all going to remember this draft. We're going to remember how every so-called expert had him ahead, how every fan saw the potential, and how somehow, some way, the league talked itself out of common sense. So I'll ask the question nobody in those war rooms wanted to face. Was this really about talent, or was it about control? Because if this draft proved anything, it's that when you challenge the system will rewrite your story. But what they didn't count on is how fast the truth was going to come back around. There's a saying in football, character isn't measured at the combine. You can bench 225 100 times, you can run a 4.4, you can crush every drill, but none of that tells you what kind of man you are when nobody's watching. And that's exactly where Shedeur Sanders just proved every critic wrong. Picture it, a quiet hospital room, fluorescent lights humming, a young fan lying there, hooked up to machines, just hoping to meet the guy he's been watching all year. No media, no PR team, no camera crew in the hallway. Just Shedeur, walking in, pulling up a chair, smiling, talking. Not about football, not about fame, just about life. You can feel the stillness of that moment. You can see it. Two people face to face, one fighting through pain, the other showing up when it mattered most. And that's what makes it powerful, because nobody told him to do it. There wasn't a single reason for him to be there other than doing the right thing. That's leadership. That's presence. That's the stuff no draft report can measure. See, this is where the so-called experts get it twisted. They'll tell you leadership is about barking in a huddle or calling out a teammate in film study, but that's surface level. Real leadership, The kind that builds locker rooms, the kind that makes men follow you into battle. It's built in moments like this. When you show empathy, when you give your time, when you remember that being a quarterback isn't just about throwing passes, it's about the impact you have on people. And here's the irony. Those same scouts who said Shedeur lacked accountability or humility, they were blind to the proof sitting right in front of them. Because this, right here, is humility. Showing up for someone who can give you nothing in return. No camera, no contract, no clout. Just gratitude. It's easy to say all the right things at a press conference. It's easy to tweet Conquer Grind Time or Our Faith Family Football. But when the lights are off and there's no one around, who are you really? That's the question every athlete faces. And Shedeur answered it without saying a word. Some guys talk leadership, others live it. And Shedeur? He's living it every day. Whether it's supporting his teammates, showing up early, or sitting quietly with a kid who needed hope, he's showing a kind of maturity that no interview or scouting report can fake. And that's why this moment matters. Because it strips away the noise. It reminds us what football is supposed to be about. Heart, community, responsibility. You can't coach that. You can't fabricate it. Either you have it or you don't. And Shedeur's got it in spades. They said he was all about himself. Turns out that self is built for others. And when you see that, when you feel that, you start to realize this isn't just a redemption story. It's a revelation. Because while everyone else was questioning his character, Shedeur was out there quietly defining it. And if that doesn't change how people see him, then maybe the problem isn't with the player. Maybe it's with the people doing the watching. Pause beat, reflective transition. Because now the question isn't whether he can handle the spotlight. It's whether the league can handle a young man who doesn't need it. You ever notice how long it takes for the truth to finally catch up? How fans, or the ones who actually watch the games, not just skim the headlines, always seem to know before the talking heads do? That's exactly what's happening right now with Shedeur Sanders. Because after months of silence, after weeks of slander, the tide's finally turning, and you can feel it. It started with Mike Greenberg on ESPN, one of the few mainstream voices finally willing to say out loud what so many of us have been screaming all offseason. This man can play. No agenda, no filters, just straight truth. He didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't hide behind potential or raw talent. He looked right into that camera and said what every fan with eyes already knew. There isn't one credible analyst who ever had Dylan Gabriel ranked ahead of Shedeur Sanders. Not one. That was the moment, the shift. The first time national media finally broke ranks and said, yeah, this narrative doesn't make sense. And that's when the dominoes started falling. Suddenly the tone changed. You could hear it in every sports debate show, every podcast, every locker room whisper. Wait a second, maybe we were too quick to judge. Because here's the thing, truth always finds a way to the surface. And when you've got a young quarterback showing up early, running scout reps like they're game drives, taking notes, staying humble, that energy spreads. Ask anyone in that Browns facility. Players are noticing, coaches are noticing. He's still listed as QB3. But the respect he's earning? That's QB1 level. You can't fake that. You can't manufacture it. It's what happens when a guy who's been doubted his whole career walks into the room with quiet confidence and lets his work do the talking. And fans, and we've been seeing it, from Colorado to Cleveland, we've been saying it for months. He's different. He's not just another arm. He's got that poise, that presence, that chip you only get when the world tells you no 1,000 times. And now, the same analysts who called him entitled are quoting his practice habits like scripture. Funny how that works, right? But here's the thing that gets me. None of this happens without the doubt. The slide, the whispers, the labels, all of it became fuel. Because for Shedeur, every slight is motivation. Every critic is kindling. Every draft snub, every lazy take. That's one more reason to keep sharpening the blade. You can see it in how he carries himself. Calm, focused, unbothered, like a man who knows how the story ends. Just not when the league will catch up. This is the turning point, not the viral clip, not the headline. This moment where perception starts aligning with reality, This is where destiny starts taking shape, because you can't silence a story written in truth. They tried to bury him under opinions, but roots grow deep in dark places. And now those roots, they're breaking through concrete. So yeah, he's still waiting, still biding his time behind veterans, taking mental reps, soaking in the system. But make no mistake, every great quarterback has a moment where the world goes from doubting to believing. And for Shedeur Sanders, that moment just began. Pause, reflective transition. Because once the truth starts moving, there's no stopping it. And every throw from here on out, it's another reminder. You can delay destiny, but you can't deny it. Mark this moment, because years from now, when Shedeur Sanders is out there commanding an NFL huddle, calling plays with that calm confidence we've seen since Colorado, you're going to remember how it all started. And no, it didn't start with a viral highlight. It didn't start with a stat line or a scouting report. It started with something simple, something real, a quiet hospital room, a sick kid, and a quarterback who showed up, not because it would help his image, not because someone told him to, but because it was the right thing to do. That's the part that hits different, because football's full of noise, mock drafts, power rankings, social media hot takes. But this moment cut through all of it. It reminded us what leadership really looks like. It's not in a 40-yard dash time. It's not in a press conference quote. It's in moments of character. Moments that reveal who you are when nobody's watching. And Shedeur Sanders just showed the world. You can't bury a leader built for light. We've seen this story play out before. The underdog, the doubted, the ones who get labeled before they ever get a chance to speak for themselves. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, guys who were told they couldn't do it until they did. And now it's Shedeur's turn. Different journey, same fire. Every critic, every headline, every false label, all of it just feeding the comeback that's already writing itself. Because here's the truth. This story isn't just about a quarterback. It's about every athlete who's been overlooked, every fan who's been told they weren't enough, every person grinding in silence while the world questions their worth. That's why this moment resonates, because we see ourselves in it, in that patience, in that quiet defiance, in that refusal to fold when it would have been easier to lash out. And when Shedeur finally gets that shot, when the headset clicks on and the ball's in his hands. I want you to remember this week. Remember how it felt watching the narrative crumble. Remember that hospital visit. Remember how one small act of grace shattered every lie they tried to build around him. Because when he steps under center, he's not just carrying his dream, he's carrying every overlooked story, every late bloomer, every believer who refused to break. This is bigger than football. It's about truth catching up. It's about light breaking through. It's about a young man who was written off before his chapter even started, now holding the pen himself. And here's the best part. We get to witness it. We get to be part of the turn. To say we saw it before the rest of the world did. Because this isn't just about Shedeur Sanders. This is about all of us who've been counted out, talked down, or doubted into silence. This is about every soul who kept their head down, kept grinding, and let their actions speak louder than any narrative. So mark it, stamp it, remember it. Because when destiny finally calls his name, we'll look back and know this is where the redemption began.